A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, the X-Wing was the signature key tool used by the Rebel Alliance against the Galactic Empire, and it was used all the way up until the time of the New Republic in the time of about 45 ABY against the First Order, the Final Order, and even in Legends continuity against the rising New Empire and the Yuuzhan Vong and many other organizations that were trying to destroy the Republic at the time. So today we are going to be discussing the X-Wing itself, its longevity throughout the entirety of the Galactic Civil War, all the way into many other different wars throughout Star Wars history, and we are also going to talk about why the X-Wing lasted for as long as it did, and why it was the key signature fighter for the Rebel Alliance and for the New Republic. So without further ado, here we go. So first, as always, we are going to be talking about the beginning, and we are going to be talking about the creators of the X-Wing itself. The X-Wing was created by Incom Corporation and the leader of Beloris Bribs during the time of the Imperial and Rebel period. The idea basically was that Incom Corporation wanted to create a brand new starfighter for the Empire, and they had the best idea possible, which was an alternate version of the Z-95 Headhunter that was originally used by the Galactic Republic during the time of the Clone Wars. The X-Wing was a brand new situated starfighter with its own hyperdrive, 4 different variations of cannons that it could use on each wingtip to be able to fire in different directions, proton torpedoes, its own signature shape, its own look, its own cockpit with its own astromech droid. Literally everything about this ship was way better than every other ship of the line, but unfortunately it was not chosen because the TIE Fighter was a lot cheaper, it was a lot easier to make, and it didn't really take as much resources because it didn't have its own hyperdrive, life support system, astromech droid, navigational systems, or anything like that. Basically, they wanted a box fighter that they could effectively put together very easily and very fast without having to spend a bunch of resources on things like, a life support system, or hyperdrive, or an astromech droid, or, things that could be useful out in the field of battle. So yeah, the main developers of the X-Wing were not very happy with the fact that the TIE Fighter basically won over them, and Cinear Fleet Systems got a massive contract where they basically took a bunch of boxcar starfighters and threw them out into the field for battle and basically used them effectively until the end of the Galactic period. And at that point, they were basically like, screw it, let's just hand over everything that we have on the X-Wing to the Rebels and let's see what they can do with it. And my god, they really did something with it. And because of the Rebel Alliance acquiring the X-Wing itself, the Rebel Alliance now had a shot against the Empire, and many individuals turned heel and practically went over to the Rebel Alliance to fight against the Galactic Empire itself. And many individuals became top-notch pilots like Luke Skywalker, Wedge Antilles, Biggs Darklighter, Derek Cavilian, Wes Jameson, Jack Porkins, Garvin, Driez, Thane Creel, and many other top-notch ace pilots that put their lives on the line, and some of who actually died to fight against the Empire. And the reason why the entirety of this ship became as popular as it did for the Rebel Alliance and many other rebel groups was because of how much there was inside of this ship. I mean, this ship was, in layman's terms, a massive feat of engineering at 12.5 meters in length, 11 meters in width, 4.4 meters in height, with a mass of 10 metric tons. This thing had 4 fusional thrust engines, a class 1 hyperdrive motivators, power generators, deflector shield generators, titanium armor alloy hull, mini sensors, spectrum transceivers, energy receptors, photoreceptors, a full spectrum transceiver, a full phased tachyon detection array, and also a short-range primary threat analysis grid, along with tracking computers and a holographic imaging system, and a navigational system which was completely supported by an astromech droid, and a sensory jammer with 4 tip laser cannons and 2 proton torpedo launchers. It was absolutely insane the amount of crap that was in this starship, and that's mainly the reason why the Galactic Empire didn't want to have it. I mean, you take that entire grocery list of stuff that you literally need to equip your X-Wing with, and meanwhile with the TIE Fighter, it's like navigational system, 2 laser cannons, that's it. There was literally nothing else with the TIE Fighter. when compared to the two, I guess the Empire thought that having a lot more TIE fighters versus a lot less ships was not really worth it in the end, but I guess the Rebel Alliance really showed them because it became one of the longest surviving ships in the entirety of the Rebel Alliance, and some of the greatest starfighter pilots managed to destroy not only one, but two different Death Stars. But of course, there are several individuals that ask the question, okay, well, why is it that the X-Wing was so proficient, and why were there so many proficient pilots for the X-Wing? Well, there is an actual, very simple answer to that question, and that's Incom Corporation themselves. Because the X-Wing actually had the same piloting and same systems as the Z-95 Headhunter and as the Incom Corporation T-16 Skyhopper. They all had the same systems in place. They all had the same navigational systems, piloting systems, and everything in between that made it to where the Z-95 Headhunter and the T-16 Skyhopper were actually very, very solid training vehicles to train their pilots up for the X-Wing, which meant that they could basically use cheaper alternative options for training and then send them out into the battlefield in actual X-Wings, and they were extremely proficient with all the new gear and all the new bells and whistles that were compared to the Z-95 Headhunter and the T-16 Skyhopper. In fact, one of the main examples was, of course, Luke Skywalker, who actually had his own T-16 Skyhopper back in the day while he was on Tatooine, and who actually could bullseye womp rats that were about 3 meters in length. And he was actually so proficient in the T-16 Skyhopper that whenever he transitioned to the X-Wing, it was almost like flying through the trenches on Tatooine. So yeah, all across the board, the X-Wing is probably one of the best ships of the line whenever it came to weaponry, whenever it came to gear, whenever it came to equipment, and whenever it came to safety. There's literally no reason why the X-Wing should have been denied by the Empire, and if it was approved by the Empire, then who knows what would have happened eventually later on down the line. But with all that being said, I'll see you guys later, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and maybe I'll make a video on the Y-Wing eventually. Until then, may the Force be with you.